You think you're in control right now? But you're not. That sentence probably annoyed you. Good, because irritation is what happens when control gets questioned. Most people think decisions start in the mind, a clear moment, a conscious choice. But real decisions are usually made long before you feel involved. By the time you notice the choice, the direction is already leaning. Think about the last thing you did without thinking. You didn't sit down and analyze it. You moved. It felt natural. That's the danger. When something feels natural, you stop asking where it came from. Here's the truth most people don't like hearing. Decisions don't appear. They're prepared. Sign number 1. The setup happened before the thought. Before you decide, your environment makes the first move. What's placed in front of you? What's repeated? What's easy? What's quietly removed? When one option requires less effort than the rest, it doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like preference. And preference feels personal. But preference can be shaped. If every option were equally visible and equally difficult, many choices would look very different. This is where control hides best. When the setup feels neutral. Sign number 2. Habits acted faster than awareness. You believe thinking comes first. Often it doesn't. Habits respond to cues, time of day, emotional state, familiar patterns. By the time you feel like you're choosing, the habit already moved. That's why some actions feel automatic. You don't debate them. You don't question them. You just do them. Here's the uncomfortable part. What feels like, this is just who I am, is often repetition that never got interrupted. Sign number 3. Timing lowered your resistance. Notice when the choice showed up, not what it was, when it appeared. Late at night, after a long day, when you were tired, when you wanted relief. Timing matters more than logic. The same option at a different moment would have felt wrong. Influence doesn't argue with you. It waits until resistance drops. Ask yourself this: would you have chosen the same thing if you were rested and calm? Sign number 4. Familiarity disguised itself as instincty. The more you see something, the safer it feels, even if you never chose it consciously. Repetition creates comfort. Comfort creates trust. Trust turns off caution. Eventually, familiarity feels like intuition. You say, "It just felt right." But feeling right doesn't mean it came from you. It often means it was normalized. Here's the quiet trick. Familiarity doesn't feel like influence. It feels like identity. Sign number 5. Emotions narrowed the field. You don't decide the same way in every emotional state. When you're stressed, relief becomes the goal. When you're bored, stimulation becomes the goal. When you're uncertain, certainty becomes the goal. Emotions don't ask what's best. They ask what ends the feeling fastest. And when an option fits the emotion perfectly, it feels like your idea. This is where it gets dangerous. You call it intuition, but it might just be urgency. Sign number 6. Small actions trained this one. Big decisions rarely come out of nowhere. They're built. One small step at a time, a harmless click, a simple agreement, a tiny compromise. Small actions don't trigger alarms, but they create momentum. Once you start moving in a direction, continuing feels easier than stopping. Consistency takes over. Here's the chilling truth. By the time the decision feels serious, the path behind you already explains it. Sign number 7. The reason came after the action. This one is hard to accept. Often, you act first and explain later. The mind hates feeling out of control, so it creates reasons. Logical ones, comfortable ones, These reasons make the action feel chosen, but they didn't cause it. They covered it. That's how influence stays invisible. You feel rational. You feel in charge. Pause here. This matters. If reasons follow actions, how many choices were truly deliberate? Now breathe. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Influence only works when it stays unseen. The moment you notice the pattern, it weakens. So, how do you take your decisions back? Slow down anything that feels obvious. Obvious is often engineered. Change the environment. Add friction. Make default actions harder. Check your emotional state before acting. Ask what you're trying to escape. Break patterns on purpose. Choose differently sometimes. Not to rebel, to stay awake. And most important, separate behavior from identity. Just because you did something doesn't mean that's who you are. Identity locks decisions in place. Awareness unlocks them. You didn't decide that, not fully. But the next one can be different. Control doesn't return all at once. It returns the moment you start noticing. If this felt uncomfortably familiar, say so in the comments. And if you want the next layer, how habits are engineered to feel like personality, stay close.